The woman's car suddenly broke down in the middle of nowhere. Then a man in black approached her, but he took one look and turned away. The woman felt uneasy. She was about to lock her car door. Suddenly, Kyung-chul rushed into the car. He grabbed the woman's hair. He hit her head with a hammer. Then Kyung-chul dragged her back to the slaughterhouse. At that moment, the woman begged Kyung-chul for mercy. She said she had an unborn child inside her. The next day, a passerby found the body bag. The police went all out to look for the body. The woman's father was a famous detective. Her husband was also a secret agent. Soon the police found the head. The scene was surrounded by a crowd. Only the woman's husband, Soo-hyun, stood silent. He was determined to torture the murderer to death. Soo-hyun soon found out about the murderer, Kyung-chul's murderer. Kyung-chul was still preparing for the murder. The girl was lured into the car by Kyung-chul, but the car hadn't gone far. Kyung-chul took out a steel pipe from the back seat and gave the girl a message. Finally, Kyung-chul took the girl back to the slaughterhouse. He cut the woman in half with a guillotine. Soo-hyun found Kyung-chul's hiding place, the bloodstains and the ring he gave to his wife. Both made him determined. And just as Kyung-chul was about to commit a crime, suddenly there were footsteps behind him. Soo-hyun came to take revenge. Kyung-chul drew his scythe. The two of them started the battle of revenge. Kyung-chul was knocked over by a punch. He fought back. At this point, Soo-hyun beat Kyung-chul to death. Then Soo-hyun smothered him to death. When Kyung-chul was about to die, Soo-hyun thought of a more brutal method. He took out a locator and shoved it into Kyung-chul's stomach. He wanted to take revenge on him for the rest of his life. Then he stepped on Kyung-chul's arm. When Kyung-chul woke up, the first time he was ready to stop the car to go to the hospital. But I didn't realize that the driver of the car was a robber. This is definitely a cool revenge movie. A word of caution: the extreme way to send people to heaven. Commentary officially began after Kyung-chul finished with the robbers, ran to a clinic to treat injuries. But I didn't expect the doctor to speak a little too loudly. Kyung-chul was about to kill him. At this time, a small nurse suddenly came in. Kyung-chul instantly diverted his attention, directly began to insult the nurse. But I didn't realize. Kyung-chul threw the body to the river. Soo-hyun found. Then Soo-hyun went all the way to the angry, toward Kyung-chul on the past. Kyung-chul reacted quickly and started to fight back, but he was still no match for the agent. So Kyung-chul was beaten for 3 days and 3 nights. Soo-hyun whispered into his ear, "It's going to get scarier and scarier." In order to take revenge, Soo-hyun cut Kyung-chul's hamstring with a dagger. He wanted to torture him to death. I didn't realize it would make Kyung-chul's perverted mind even more perverted. In the end, Kyung-chul found his accomplice, Big Fatty, to take revenge on Soo-hyun. I didn't realize that this Big Fatty is even more perverted. He directly kidnapped a woman. He planned to kill her. But when he did it, Soo-hyun suddenly appeared from behind. Big Fatty went straight for it, but he was overpowered by Soo-hyun. In the end, Soo-hyun locked Big Fatty firmly. He was going to cut his body into pieces. Then Kyung-chul suddenly appeared with a shotgun. Soo-hyun could only leap down from the window. Big Fatty also broke free. Unexpectedly, Soo-hyun found the opportunity to put the Big Fat down on the ground. Then he hit him with a steel pipe, until Big Fatty did not react. Then Soo-hyun set up a steel trap in the corridor. When Kyung-chul was hit, Soo-hyun directly kicked him down. Then he beat him with a steel pipe. Then he threw him under the bridge. But not only did Kyung-chul not die, he tried to take revenge on Soo-hyun. The man rushed into the drugstore. He grabbed a big bottle of laxative. He drank it all in one gulp. Then he hid in the public restroom. When the time is right, the man fished out the locator in his stomach. At this time, a stranger came to the public restroom. Kyung-chul followed him all the way, until he beat the man unconscious. Then he put the locator in his mouth. Then he drove off. By the time Soo-hyun realized there was a problem with the locator, Kyung-chul was already on his way to his house. Soo-hyun hurriedly called his father-in-law. But just as he was about to answer the phone, there was a doorbell at the door. That's when the bad luck started. Kyung-chul called him for more than an hour, until he died. His sister-in-law's fate was also sealed. When Soo-hyun arrived, father-in-law was lying in a pool of blood. His sister-in-law was also a corpse. Soo-hyun was desperate to catch Kyung-chul, but Kyung-chul called again. He said he'd turn himself in to the police, because there is no death penalty in Korea. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. And then, he went to the police station. But just when he thought he had one, Soo-hyun took Kyung-chul away. They ended up at the slaughterhouse, but Kyung-chul was still mad. Soo-hyun put a screwdriver through his mouth. Kyung-chul kept begging him to let him go. Finally, Soo-hyun pulled the guillotine. Then he put the rope through the gate and put it in his mouth. Then he called Kyung-chul's family. As soon as the door is opened, Kyung-chul's head will fall straight to the ground. Finally, Soo-hyun finally avenged the deaths of his wife and child.